Welcome to Roguecast, the official podcast of Rogues Gallery in Round Rock, where we talk about games, comics, and other stuff on our pop cultural radar. I'm Randy.
This is Dave.
And this is Tila.
And this time out, we are talking about recent comic book movie trailers and news. Yep. Y'all might have seen this game. I hesitate to call it a game. You might have seen a Super Bowl where the Seahawks had, I believe as Jon Stewart put it, it was Take the Broncos to Work Day. As a Broncos fan, that was painful to me to watch. But in between, there were commercials.
Right.
And some of those commercials were for superhero movies.
Yep. There was Amazing Spider-Man, and there was Winter Soldier. Were there any other big
I think that was
ones?
it as far as superhero movies.
Okay. So the Winter Soldier one is what I'm fired up about.
Yeah, me too. I actually, a really big Captain America fan, really liked that story. I was not going to watch any more trailers because I know what the movie's about. I'm going to go see it. I kind of want any more spoilers, but I heard how good the trailer was, and I watched it. I'm glad I watched it.
It's very, very cool. Tila, did you like it?
Yes, I did.
But you haven't read the comics it's based.
Nope.
Yes. Not that I think it's going to matter.
No, I don't think you have
to get everything they need to know in that movie.
But I think the Falcon looks cool.
Yep.
I think
Winter Soldier himself looks like a badass.
He looks like a badass.
He's all blowing up Samuel Jackson's car and walking at it in slow motion. I don't care.
I love more Black Widow.
Yep.
I'm curious whether they're going to do the Black Widow Winter Soldier stuff that they did in the comics.
There's definitely going to be a little bit of social commentary as far as it seems like government overstepping its bounds.
Yeah,
maybe
sure.
It seems like Robert Redford's character. They're making out that
he may play a shadowy kind of shieldy guy,
right? Although exactly where they're going to ultimately go with it, heroic, villainous, or something in between, I don't either.
By the way, just for Robert Redford, you can't be that old and look that good. It's not fair.
He's a handsome man.
It's
Really
not
not.
fair.
He has aged well.
Yes, he has.
Indeed.
And he still looks cool too.
He's a handsome man. He's a cool guy. That was what was he? Which one was he? He was Sundance. No, he was Butch. He was Butch, right?
Shit.
I don't think that's who he was.
I've stumped you.
No, he's Sundance.
He's Sundance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the kid.
Butch is
Paul Newman cannot be a kid.
Yeah, Butch is Paul Newman, yeah.
Yeah.
So he was Sundance.
Yeah.
I just know him as Jay Gatsby.
He was also Jay Gatsby.
And he was also in the movie that this reminds me of, I believe a Ridley Scott movie, Spy Game, or no, Tony Scott movie.
Tony Scott.
Spy Game, which it was him and Brad Pitt, and he was
movie.
sort of Brad Pitt's handler, yeah. This sort of feels a very similar role of he's like the older spy handler guy.
Do you think they're going to use the comment on sort of NSA wiretapping type
absolutely.
stuff? Or do you think it's just going to be they made it specifically out that S.H.I.E.L.D. is taking down stuff before they become a threat, and maybe overextending their reach?
I think there's going to be nods to Edward Snowden and NSA
but touch
and all
on
that kind of stuff.
Bit.
Yeah. But yeah, it's not going to be a political thriller. I mean, in that way,
it looks like that's going to be the underlying sort of themes going on. But man, the action looks so cool.
Yeah,
We've got helicopters, helicarriers.
But you have Cap taking on a helicopter with his. Or no, it's a Quinjet actually.
Oh yeah,
with his shield.
Right, he's riding on his motorcycle, blazing down the highway. One of the Quinjets is
pops out a little Gatling gun,
blazing away at him, and he throws his shield and knocks its engine out. Oh my god!
Yeah, it looks cool. Super cool.
You know what else I'm looking forward to? I think I got the first glimpse in this one that there's going to be some kind of chase scene with him tracking down Winter Soldier. Probably the first time they meet.
Yeah. And
he's running at some other lower level of a building, but watching him up above as he's vaulting and making these 15-foot leaps and stuff like that.
Yep.
I mean, it already looks well edited and cool.
I also love that Ed Brubaker is in there as one of Ed Brubaker, the writer who created Winter Soldier, is in there as one of the scientists who is creating Winter Soldier. I think that's a great nod.
That's fun.
So yeah, it looks great. It comes out in April, early April. We will definitely be opening weekend. I
have to ask Tila, what is it that did you like the first Cap movie?
Yeah, I did. I liked it a lot.
What was it you liked about it?
Chris Evans.
Fair enough.
I think he did a really great job.
He did.
And I don't really know a whole lot about the character because I have actually not read Captain America, which is a crime, I know, but I haven't.
It's a pretty good representation of him.
It is.
He feels like he is Cap. He just feels like the character.
Yeah, they got the Steve Rogers, and I think that was the most important thing.
Yep.
But this is going to be interesting because it's not period piece like the one was.
Right, but we have seen Cap in the present time in Avengers, pretty notably.
Yep.
And briefly in a way in Thor 2.
In a way.
But you haven't seen that yet, Tila, so I won't...
I already know what happens.
Okay.
It was a fun day.
It was spoiled for me. It's alright, it happens.
Okay.
Thor 2, by the way, should be on Blu-ray, I believe, next week.
Yeah, and Thor 2 is a lot of fun.
And Thor 2 is great. Well worth seeing. And has that short with Ben Kingsley that was released on the internet.
Yep.
With
did you get a chance to watch that?
I did.
What was your take on it?
It's interesting.
I thought it was interesting too, although I was left somewhat confused at the end.
My problem with this is the one shots have generally been pretty good, like lead-ins to stuff, and this felt like a bit of fluff.
A bit.
I mean, the ending does lead to something, but like the Agent Carter one shot that's on Iron Man 3 is great, like
it's
legitimately
really awesome
great.
One.
And
seen what?
Agent Carter. It's on the Iron Man 3. It's basically Peggy Carter post Captain America as an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., and she's at this big male chauvinist-dominated office where they won't let her go on missions, and she takes a call and goes on a mission and is a badass.
It's only a little 15-minute thing, but it's really good.
It's really good. And it's probably it's a pilot for a show they're going to do.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, it's in development as a World War II era, post-World War II sort of S.H.I.E.L.D.ish show. So.
I didn't know this.
Yep.
We were going to talk about some other stuff.
The other trailer is Amazing Spider-Man, which I was not a big fan of Amazing Spider-Man, but Tila, I understand you were a big fan of Amazing Spider-Man.
Yes, I was.
And you're looking for the second one?
I am. I liked this new one because I don't like Tobey Maguire.
Fair enough.
First of all, I just don't think he's that good.
Yeah.
And the Spider-Man that he portrayed, it didn't feel... Maybe, I don't know, all I've really read of Spider-Man is the Ultimate stuff. Yeah. And Andrew Garfield fits that mold a lot better.
He does,
He is, like, when I hear him speak...
handsome.
No, he's not. He's perfect. No, he's not. He's like a geeky handsome, and it's perfect for the role.
In the comics, he looks the way Peter Parker did when he got, like, into college and kind of handsomed up a little bit.
I guess that's true, but, that's sort of become the thing, is, like, Pete does become a guy who marries a supermodel, although not now. Right. But... Pete has always done well with the ladies.
Sort of.
I mean, even early on, he's always Gwen and Mary Jane hanging on him.
He's had some great streaks, I'd say, but things always fall apart. Too.
Sure, but I don't think we were ever supposed to think that Pete looked geeky and ugly.
Those early ones, he was spazzy.
He was spazzy in personality.
You see that Ditko stuff? That was a pencil neck.
But he was spazzy in personality. He wasn't supposed to look. Well, weird.
I was also going to say, although I know what you're saying when you're talking about the Ultimate Spider-Man in the sense that he definitely has that sense of humor.
Right, he has the quips that I really like.
But Ultimate Spider-Man is a bit nerdy looking.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but he's a cute nerdy, and that's the whole thing behind Andrew Garfield is he's not like George Clooney handsome, or whatever. He's a geeky handsome. See, he's cute in a nerdy way.
I think it's the context. I think it's that geeky handsome didn't exist in the 60s.
No, it did not.
True.
And so I think that's what it is you can be sort of the Harry Potter-ish dude, which is kind of what he looked like in Ultimates.
Right.
And that's sort of geek sexy now.
Right.
So I think that's a different type of approach for him.
And what I like about the new one is in the original Spider-Man trilogy, it's just, they had the quips, but they weren't quite up there.
It was pretty dour.
Yeah, it was cheesy. It wasn't quippy.
But Spider-Man himself didn't crack wise.
No, he wasn't. He was cheesy rather than quippy. Whereas in this one, like in the first Amazing Spider-Man movie, he has that whole little thing where the guy pulls up the knife. He goes, "Oh no, you found my weakness. Yeah. It's small knife."
That was actually my favorite part of it.
Yeah. That is exactly what he does in Ultimate Spider-Man, and it's just I don't know. I just love that portrayal.
Yeah, I think Randy, you and I would just say we haven't yet seen a Spider-Man movie that gets all the pieces right.
Yeah, you and I are kind of we formed our take on Spidey in the '80s, and I think we're never going to see that Spidey.
Maybe not.
We'll see.
But you really liked there's the Spectacular
Spider-Man cartoon actually is pretty close to ideal.
That's a good example of, and I was very happy with that too.
The other thing that bugs me about Amazing Spider-Man that's causing considerable nerd rage online is the villains. I don't like Mecha Rhino so far. I don't like the look. I actually think Paul Giamatti's a good casting for Rhino.
Rhino looked good. It's just that
he's got machine guns and stuff. That's not right.
Oh, does he? I didn't know that. I just thought he was going to run.
He's like shooting off rockets and stuff.
Instead of, I mean, it was always supposed to be an artificial suit.
It was. I think they've got a little too mecha and too big in it. And I don't really like the Jamie Foxx Electro look either.
I kind of like that actually.
I'm not a fan.
That's clearly based on his Ultimates look.
Sure,
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Well, Amazing is definitely based more on the Ultimate Spider-Man, I would say.
And then there's a Green Goblin who I believe once again they decided to try and make him not look like the Green Goblin.
See, that's the thing. I don't like the looks of the villains, and I wasn't super into the first movie. It's probably not for me, but I know that a lot of people really liked it. And
did you watch
the
trailer at all?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
It was okay.
I have to say that and the other trailer I saw, I don't quite think I'm going to see it, but there is a lot of neat little stuff in them.
Yeah,
so I'm a little torn.
It's not winning me over, but I think...
know that scene where the car is flipping through the air and he catches it?
Yeah, that's cool.
That was just good special effects.
Sally Field is a really good Aunt May.
Yep. She's wonderful.
And
they're still doing weird stuff with his parents, too, which I was never big into that whole notion that his parents were anybody but random.
That is a weirder thing, although I'm okay with the secret agent parents, but...
We've talked about this before.
We have talked about this before.
Let's just glare at each other.
You can't hear me glaring at Dave, but I am.
They really are. Like,
Tila narrate the glaring.
Okay, so those are the two Super Bowl commercials. There's also been one bit of casting news very recently as we record this, not as you listen to it, but they have cast their Gordon for the Gotham series is what it's called.
Right.
The weird thing about this Gotham series is the supposedly...
Nobody seems to know what this is.
But they've said... I mean, they said this at like press tour, so it's like official. It's not just a rumor that it's going to be a teenage Bruce Wayne and some of his teenage, like villains in high school, which Bruce Wayne doesn't go to high school. Bruce Wayne goes to Nepal.
Is it... I mean, I really can't even quite conceive of where this is meshing.
The thing is, like, Smallville made a certain amount of sense because Superboy is a thing.
Right.
He was a Superboy. There was no Batboy.
Right. However, we have seen about a zillion different interpretations of Batman over the years, from 60s campiness, which was came to kind of a cooler fruition in Brave and the Bold.
Yep.
To Tim Burton's very Tim Burton-y version.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, Dini and Tim's animated series in the 90s and all these other interesting and fascinating versions. I feel like I'm more... I can allow for high school Bruce Wayne if it's well done or fun or whatever it's going to be.
The first thing is, there's one thing is the disappointment. We all were hoping for Gotham Central. We all were hoping this was secretly going to be like about the Gotham Police in the early days, and Jim Gordon as a lieutenant out of Chicago and all that kind of stuff.
And the cops having to deal with like metahumans like Mr. Freeze. And
it's not going to be that.
Yeah.
It is going to be... If this was animated...
I don't know why they don't do that, because cop shows are super popular.
I know. If it was animated and they were doing this, like a teenage Bruce Wayne is, I could be okay with that. For some reason, live action is a bridge too far. But it is on CW. They've been doing well with... If people think Arrow is like the best superhero show on TV right now.
Yeah.
And so maybe it can work. I don't know.
Tila, do you have any interest in a I guess a high school Batman?
Yeah, will you give this one a shot?
Well, maybe. I don't know if they're doing the villains. Maybe because I'd kind of like to see a ditzy, but like maniacal Harley Quinn, teenage Harley Quinn.
I can see that working. I just
think that would be brilliant.
Yeah,
but I don't know if I want to see a teenage Joker. That's weird.
I don't know. See, I feel like you
could work.
Like if he didn't have the makeup on, maybe that would work.
Yeah.
If he didn't have his things, but every so often, like you didn't know that was the Joker.
He'd be like the creepy guy in school who feels like he might be a sociopath.
Right. Yeah. And every so often he says something that I go, "Oh my god, that's the Joker."
I wonder if he's going to be more like like Patrick Bateman was.
Yeah. See, I think that take could work. I think this is going to be one of those things where you're going to have to set aside. Okay, this is not the Batman we know.
Right.
Very much, this is going to be a very different take, and I'm not sure I can do that.
Right. This one we'll just have to see. Oh, who was the dude who was cast?
The dude that cast as Gordon is Ben McKenzie, who you might know from the OC. No one at this table probably does, because I never watched the OC.
I was too young for the OC.
And I was too old.
And I wouldn't have watched it even if I could.
But he was on Southland, which I hear is a great cop show, playing a cop. He looks like a young cop. He seems like a guy who could pull the role off.
Yep.
He is well respected amongst the critics I follow.
The pictures I saw looked all right.
It seems like he could be a good young Gordon. I don't know what his rank is going to be. Like, he's going to be Patrolman Gordon, and they're just going to... I mean, if he's going to rise to commissioner eventually...
He's going to be like a detective or something.
Maybe. I don't know. But Ben McKenzie...
They'll bring in anybody like even if they don't do Gotham Central, if they will have supporting characters like Bullock or Montoya.
That would help. I mean, that's one thing that Arrow has done well, is they've done all these nods to continuity. Yep. So there's all these Easter eggs for fans, like, oh, that name, even if it's just in name only, there's all kinds of little nods.
Sure.
And I think if they do that, I think this could work. I also think it could be a train wreck. I'm curious to see where they go with it.
Right. It has to be one of those ones where they know all eyes will be on them.
Yep.
And
I think it would be kind of cute if maybe we get to see a baby, like a young Barbara Gordon, and a young James. Although that would be kind of scary.
Yeah.
Well, it could be a storyline, though.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah. I just think it'd be cute.
For those who don't know, Commissioner Gordon's young son James is a psychopath.
Yep.
Yeah.
Who escapes from Arkham Asylum.
This is largely chronicled in the graphic novel Black Mirror.
But he has also been in the current Batgirl series.
Yes, he is.
Black Mirror.
Yeah.
He's like Barbara Gordon's evil twin because he's her brother, and there's
and he's very smart.
He is very smart, and he's very clever.
He's an interesting villain. I actually like him as a villain.
I have mixed feelings about it because he's like so creepy.
Yeah.
But he's kind of creepy in a real way.
Yeah.
But I do recommend checking it out. That series also had some Francesco Francavilla artwork and Jock artwork. I mean, there's some good stuff in there.
Yep. All right, to switch gears a little bit, we're going to talk about a video game, or you two are going to talk about because I've never played it.
What?
Never played it. What do you want from me? I don't But anyway, the video.
You do have a PS3 now.
I have a PS3.
Play it.
All right, this game is called
Journey.
Not
the band.
It's a year or two old, maybe at this point. It was the equivalent of what do they call Xbox Live Arcade for?
Yeah, it's the PS3. I don't know.
Whatever it is. People in the audience are shouting it at us right now through the thing because we cannot remember it.
But we can't hear you.
I can't hear a damn thing. No, how to describe it? It's an art house game, I would say.
Very much so. There's actually no plot to the game, really. No, it's not... Well, there is, but there's no, action. There's no fighting. There's no talking.
It is...
There's
open
no
to interpretation.
Nothing. Yes.
Is it a foreign? Is it French or something, or does it have this sort of that French feel?
No, I think it's an indie game studio called That Game Company or That Game Studio.
It's called That Game Company.
That Game Company, yeah.
Okay.
Who've done some previous games that were they did the previous art house hit Flower for PlayStation.
Okay.
And I recommend Flower too. By
Flower's
the way.
a lot of fun.
So Journey is a very beautiful looking game in which you emerge as this character that is never named, that some people just call the Traveler or the Pilgrim.
Well, he said he has a name. His name's Cricket or Chirpette. Chirpette is his name.
I think that was a fan
on the
name,
internet,
though.
but that's what he's.
But he's a cloaked figure that also could be a she. You don't actually know. It's a really cool cloak that sort of billows all around, so you really only see their legs sticking out. It has these kind of cool, slightly Native American or hieroglyphic-looking designs on it. And much of the game is spent wandering this desert, which sounds boring until you see these very interesting structures in it and you realize how you move about. You kind of glide over the sands.
Yeah, and you have
You can kind of fly in little bursts.
Yeah, you have a scarf on the back of your cloak, and the more, glyphs you unlock and stuff like that, the farther you get in the game, basically, the longer your scarf gets and the longer you can fly.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's super fun just moving around, just walking around and watching the physics engine as you you think trudging up a hill sounds not fun, but in this game you kind of the way you sort of glide up it and then slide down and you it's like you're on waters gliding through it or surfing across it almost. And there is a goal in it. In the very beginning, as you're standing there in the desert, you see this distant mountain, and the game just focuses on it very clearly. That is where you are supposed to go.
Right.
So you're going to travel through a variety of areas, which do include some eerie underground areas.
With some really great music.
And the music is amazing. It was nominated for some awards.
It was. It didn't win, but it was...
a shit ton of awards.
It's really great. Just download the soundtrack and listen to it. Yeah. Because it's
Randy, we'll probably grab some music for the opening to this podcast. I'm going to suggest there's one or two tracks on Journey that we'll want to look at.
See what I can find.
But anyway, it's hard to describe what's so amazing about this game other than that it's moving.
It's got a very spiritual feel to it.
Yeah. Which would not normally entice me to a game at all.
But it's got a beautiful ending to it. I won't spoil it. And the other cool thing about Journey is it's an online game. You're playing with other people, but you only meet one other player throughout the entire game. And if you lose track of that player at any time, which can happen, then you're just replaced by a different player. But you do actually get an achievement unlocked if you go through the entire game with the same player, from start to finish. Okay. But you only ever meet one other person at a time. You never see other pilgrims.
It is meant to make you feel somewhat isolated, but when you meet the person, it is kind of neat. There can be no profanity or the usual stuff because you can't talk.
All you do is chirp.
You can make these little chirp sound, the things that activate magical sorts of things.
Okay.
And when they often help you. Basically, there's a community of people that go back in the game and help other people out in this. They help them find all this neat hidden stuff.
Right. They'll show you what to do if you get stuck. Right. They'll kind of float around the area you need to go to, or they'll stand there and they'll chirp so you can see them because the little glyph pops up above the player and it chirps. Okay. And they help you throughout the game in case you get stuck.
Tila, I watched you playing this, and although this game has a lot of very sort of joyous and spiritual things in it, I remember you getting somewhat a little terrified when it suddenly takes a scary turn.
It does. You go underground. And it's been really beautiful throughout the entire game. It's very flowy, it's very fun, you get to ride on flying carpets.
Though, because you feel like you're walking, there's like a dead civilization around you. There's ruins that you'll encounter, and some of them even have this machinery working in them that suggests like an ancient war machine, as if some previous culture has destroyed itself.
Right. Mm-hmm. And then you go underground, and all of a sudden you're faced with, like, you haven't been in danger at all throughout the beginning of the game. There has been no danger whatsoever. You're just floating around, flying, having a good time.
You feel like violence is not even remotely part of the game.
And then you go underground. And there are these monsters down there that they don't kill you. You never die in the game. You just lose your scarf. And
it like burns you and batters you around.
It's
and
really
it's shocking.
heartbreaking, especially if you're like me and you've worked really hard to build this long scarf, and then you get underground and the damn thing burns half your scarf off.
Now here's the thing: the game doesn't just leave you high and dry.
No,
there is
doesn't.
Something more that happens.
Yes.
But it's a rather terrifying sequence, and
It's
the
got
game
eerie
takes you on this
and like
emotional roller coaster.
Oh, it's very nerve-wracking.
The final level is probably one of the most intense video game levels I've ever played. You know, it's the kind of thing where, in a weird way, I'd compare it to something like one of those World War II games where you do D-Day or something like that. I don't mean to say it's like the D-Day thing, but you will feel the sort of intensity.
I cried.
That you did.
I cried.
I
a lot.
might have teared up a little bit. A single manly tear rolled down my face. But anyway, it's quite an amazing game. It's short. So don't go in expecting like I think you'll get a little bit more. 2 hours
tops if you play from start to finish. Like if you don't do any of the...
It's going to take longer than 2 hours.
It took me 2 hours.
I don't think it took you 2 hours. I think it took you more than 2 hours.
No, it did.
All right, so it's a short game.
It's a short game. So but this is one of those of sort of quality over quantity. But don't go in expecting, a 60-hour Final Fantasy experience.
No.
But do go in expecting a very sort of personal game experience.
All right. Lastly, we're going to talk about a movie that came out roughly 30 years ago.
Yep. And it's still the awesomest thing in the history of ever.
It's still one of my absolute favorite movies. We just watched it at a movie night the other night, and it is Midnight Run.
Now, I think a lot of people don't know about Midnight Run.
A lot of people never heard of this movie. Now, here's the thing. It's got Robert De Niro and Charles Grodin in the leads.
It's an old-timey kind of buddy cop story.
It is,
well, except that they're not cops.
It's directed by Martin Brest, who also did Beverly Hills Cop, which you may have heard of.
And that does have something in common with it in that sort of buddy quality that Beverly Hills Cop has.
Well, we were watching last night. One of our friends, Bo, pointed out, and I think he was maybe the most trenchant observation ever, that it's basically planes, trains, and automobiles with more swearing and guns.
Yes.
Because it is the story of a bounty hunter bringing a white-collar criminal from New York to Los Angeles in 5 days so that he can beat the deadline to save his bail bondsman from defaulting on the bail, on the bond.
And meanwhile, this white-collar criminal is being hunted by a heavy-duty Chicago gangster who he embezzled money from.
He embezzled $15 million from.
Right. And as the movie notes, Charles Grodin being a kind of crazy white-collar criminal, he sends
he sends postcards to him, tell him how much he's enjoying his money.
Yeah, he taunts the gangster.
So it's very. I mean, Charles Grodin is this very, for the time, especially liberal hippy dippy guy who complains about how much Charles De Niro's character tips.
Right.
And his smoking, which this may be the smokingest movie ever.
Oh my
God!
This is the
Every
80s. Single scene is somebody lighting up a cigarette.
Every way, like De Niro's character smokes constantly.
There's a part towards the end, the FBI agent steals.
One of the partners,
Marvin's cigarettes, and he's like, why don't you quit? It'd be cheaper for both of us.
Yes,
yeah.
It's pretty funny.
There's great side characters. John Ashton, who you would know from Beverly Hills Cop, is one of the other bounty hunters. Joe Pantoliano is Joey Pants. Remender is the bail bondsman. Dennis Farina is the mobster.
Yeah, he's actually. You know what's funny is he's a very funny character, but he's also
there's some
scary.
Serious menace.
In a movie that's kind of light a lot of times, there are times when you're like, this guy is really pretty scary.
He's scary.
He does the same thing Joe Pesci does, which is he can turn on a dime and be scary.
It's got great action and chase sequences. It's got really funny moments.
The repartee between them is at the heart of it.
De Niro and Grodin have these moments where it'll just be an expression and you'll just crack up laughing.
Yeah.
It is one of the great all-time great buddy comedy action movies.
It even has heart.
It even has heart. It does. Yeah. It does. We were all watching it and we're laughing. And there's a scene in Chicago. I don't want to give too much away with his daughter, where everybody got quiet and teared up a little bit.
Right, because it's really well done. Oh, you know what I'm going to say? Part of what makes that scene effective is the music.
Yeah.
From Danny Elfman.
Danny Elfman does great music.
Who for once is not doing his normal Tim Burton boom 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 boom.
No,
boom,
I love the music in Midnight Run.
It is like this kind of crazy harmonica honky tonk sort of music that you would. I mean, it perfectly fits the road picture
movie,
kind of thing, but it is never. It's like something I've never heard Danny Elfman do.
You would not think of this as Danny Elfman. It's kind of like Danny Elfman did the True Romance theme. He did not. That's Hans Zimmer.
Hans Zimmer.
Yeah, you're right.
But I will say, Danny Elfman has done some other movies where he didn't sound alike, but we all know what his main sound.
Yeah,
is.
when Tim Burton, he does Tim Burton stuff.
What's this?
Exactly.
Yeah, but anyway, he's doing. I think I particularly like the fact that what do you call it? Midnight Run. He really pushes himself. It feels like, and it's a fun soundtrack too.
One thing I'll say about Midnight Run, and Tila can speak to this, is that you and I like a lot of guy movies.
Yes.
Like Goodfellas and all these movies
Die Hard,
Red
Lost Ark,
Heat.
Predator.
These are movies that I've been doing movie nights every so often, and I invite these girls I know who work for me or who I know from other places, and in general I feel like they're
you made it sound like you only invite them, Randy. He invites them along with everybody else.
Everybody else.
No, it's just us.
It's just but no, some creepy thing.
But one of the reasons I did it though is because they have not seen these movies,
right?
And what I've came to realize is there's a reason they've not seen them. Is that for the most part they don't speak to them the same way they do.
Well,
some do, some don't.
Some do, some don't.
Some do. Like for example, like Tarantino's too guy for me.
Yeah, he's very guy.
I love my action movies.
Sure,
I was raised on action movies. But Tarantino's that's a little too much. But Midnight Run is perfect.
And that's what I say. Midnight Run is not a guy movie.
Yeah. No. Well, it is and it isn't.
Yeah,
it is, but it's also open.
Yeah.
Right. It's kind of the way like Die Hard is a guy's movie, but not really. It kind of rides that line.
I think the fact that there's also, the comedy in it is so good.
Yeah.
You know what's funny though is like it's also. In some ways, it's very cliched.
It is.
Like, if you were to just look at it, in some way, like Beverly Hills Cop is, it's like, these two guys are traveling together and they hate each other, and you're like, gee, I wonder if they're going to end up liking each other in the end or form a friendship or something.
Sort of.
And the movie has fun with the cliches, though. At times it defies expectations. At times it fulfills them, but the writing is so clever.
And they don't cheat the plot too much. There's only a couple things where you're like, oh, come on.
Yeah, right. Once or twice. But by the way, when I say the writing is clever, it is also awesomely vulgar.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This is a rated R comedy. They drop the F-bomb constantly and very hilariously.
I saw, sadly, in Dennis Farina's obituary online that he swears he drops the F-bomb 115 times. 115 times throughout the movie. That movie is an hour and a half long.
I believe that.
And he's only in, like, the beginning and the end.
Yeah.
And he drops it 115 times.
Well, yeah, we were talking about every time you see Dennis Farina's character, he is threatening to kill someone in a vulgar way. Every time.
I think my favorite, though, guy in the supporting character-wise, well, it's tough because I really like rival bounty hunter Marvin. Who is
John Ashton,
awesomely stupid in it.
Yes.
And yet kind of effective in his way.
Sure.
But my favorite is Yaphet Kotto.
Oh, Yaphet Kotto is the FBI agent.
He plays Special Agent Alonzo Mosley, and he can say more with a pissed-off expression than most actors can say in an entire movie.
Yeah, there's such a great relationship between him and Jack Walsh, the lead character, because they're at odds, but you can tell they sort of respect each other.
Yep. You know what I was just thinking? De Niro, he's probably mostly known by folks these days for his comedy efforts in like the Fockers movies, and I'm like, this is a somewhat more potent De Niro.
Yeah,
he looks like he's all of like 30 in it or something like that. He looks very young. But the comedy timing is just better than I would say than in those movies.
It's not just comedy. He's still got that edge to him. It's got the action as well.
It's true.
Right.
It's true.
So definitely recommend Midnight Run. It's out on DVD. It is one of my absolute favorite movies.
You know what? I'm going to recommend one other small thing about it before we close that up.
Okay.
Which is, although this movie is a comedy, he's a bail bondsman. He's a bounty hunter, basically. They show a lot of technique in the movie.
Yep.
Whether it's picking a lock or tracking somebody down and doing a little bit of clever wiring of the phone system to get it. Old school detective work. And they show you kind of some of the process. They never linger on it, but you just see it in the background. And they do their homework a bit. Like the way he picked the lock, he was like using real lock picking techniques, and he had the real equipment for it.
Yep.
It's just little small things like that that elevate this movie. It could have been like kind of just a solid movie, and instead it's a great movie.
Right. Well, that is about it for us. You can check us out on our Facebook and on our webpage. We'd love to hear from you. And until next time, we'll close off with our traditional greeting, Yo Joe! And see you in the next Life Jack.